Hello and welcome to this edition of Own the Journey, where we have the opportunity to speak with incredible people from around the world. Today we have an extra special guest, world champion NFL coach Dick Vermeil. Thanks for being with us.
Nice to be with you, Tom.
Yeah, we appreciate you taking the time, coming in and having conversations here in Springfield, having some conversations with the company tonight. So we're just thrilled to have you
Looking
here.
forward to it.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people that know your story. But there's a lot of people that don't know how you started in football way back in high school in the early days, which laid a foundation for a lot of how you grew as a leader and how you coach later on. Talk to us just a little bit about what it was like to start in those early days and then how that progressed to achieve the dream.
I was very fortunate to be born in a town of 1,800 people. You knew everybody. The high school had 130 kids in it, and then I had no plans to go to college. I was going to work in my dad's garage and eventually drive his race cars. That was my goal. Someday go to Indianapolis and drive, okay? And along comes a football coach for his first coaching job out of then College of Pacific, named Bill Wood. And he becomes our football coach, and all of a sudden, he really excited me. Just being around him was exciting. And one day he walked out to me and he said, Dick, you could play college football if you wanted to. And no one ever said that to me. And I said, well, that right? I said, I wasn't even taking college prep in a little school like that. You could get by doing nothing, which I did. And so I decided I'd go to junior college and play football there if I could, and then see if I couldn't get into a college and maybe work to be a high school football coach like Bill Wood, because he was very inspirational to me. And I started doing that. It went well. I went to San Jose State, walked on, made the football team, and became a starter my senior year. Not very good, but they needed help. And I was there, and I played. I left there. I got my master's in general secondary at the same time and went to Del Mar High School as assistant football coach, head track coach. I taught freshman English and orientation classes. I set those kids back at least 1 year in English. But anyway, I got started there, and all of a sudden I get a phone call from my college coach, Bob Bronson. He says, Coach, Hillsdale High School is going to call you and offer you the head coaching job. Take it. That's close. I couldn't believe it. I'm 23 years old. The phone rings. It is Hillsdale High School. Frank Collin would like to hire you as our head football coach, because I know your college coach is a good friend. He's recommending you highly. So I took the job. So I went from the assistant coach to a head coach, and then only teaching PE. But the stipulation was I had to also coach the swimming team. I could swim and all that kind of stuff, but I'd never coached it. But fortunately, I was in an area where there were a lot of kids on the swimming team were in country clubs, so they could swim. We had great success for 3 years. We won the championship in football. All of a sudden, I had an opportunity to go to the college there, the junior college, and be assistant coach there. So I went, and thinking this is where I'm going to stay. Then I get a call. We'd like you to be our head coach at Napa College, community college. I went up there. I turned the job down. I got back and I thought about it for a week and said, maybe I'm wrong to turn that job down. So I took it. I was there 6 months. We won 7, lost 2. And Stanford called me, wanted to know if I wanted to come to work and be an assistant at Stanford. Why not? So I went to Stanford for 4 years, and all of a sudden, George Allen from the Los Angeles Rams in 1969 called me, said, I'm interested in hiring you as a special teams coach. My good friend, Peyton Jordan, the track coach at Stanford, and also our Olympic team, U.S. Olympic team coach, recommends you highly. So I went in for an interview, and he hired me. So all of a sudden, there I am. And that season, I'm the first special teams coach in pro football, and really exciting. And I get a call from Tommy Proh, their head coach at UCLA. Right after the season, he said, I'd like to hire you as my offensive coordinator. Geez, I'm working in the NFL right now, but I had so much respect for what UCLA was doing, and I wanted to learn. So I said, it's be like going to graduate school. I'll go see what they're doing to learn from a great football coach. So I went. So I go there. I'm his offensive coordinator for 1 season. He gets hired to be the head coach of the Rams. So I go back to the Rams as his offensive coordinator, and I actually helped get him fired after a couple of years. But he didn't realize that I didn't have the experience yet to really run an NFL offense, my age and my lack of experience. And they fired him and kept me. And Chuck Knox kept me on the staff, and I'm there a year, and all of a sudden I get a call from UCLA. Actually, Tommy Proto called me about 5 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning. I was getting ready to go to practice because we had a Monday night game with the Rams. He said, UCLA is going to call you and offer you the head coaching job there. He says, I recommend you take it. Not many coaches get an opportunity to go back to their school, be the head coach. So I took the job. It was a wonderful experience. I was there 2 years, and we beat the number one team in the country, and Philadelphia Eagles called me. So, I actually had a great experience in all those jobs. I only applied for one of them. It's the only one I really care for. And so you have to take advantage of the opportunities when they're presented. I was never really prepared for the job that I got, but you learn quick under pressure.
Yeah.
And when you're given responsibilities you haven't been given before, you learn fast. Make mistakes, you learn, you listen. A lot of NFL players, Roman Gabriel and the likes of those guys helped me a lot. Jack Snow, wide receiver, Kenny Hyman, who was the offensive center, been in the league for 16 years. I learned a lot from him. When I became a head coach of the Eagles, I brought him with me, okay?
Yeah.
So it just kept on that way. I coached 7 years and made some mistakes in my commitment to the game, and not to myself, emotionally and physically and mentally. So I left coaching, announcing that I was burnt out. Went into broadcasting. For CBS hired me, and I did NFL games for 5 years. And ABC, I did college games for 9 years. And all of a sudden, the Rams called me up, and I had been talked to by the Rams every time the job was open because I had worked for that family.
Yeah.
And they knew me, and I had a personal relationship with them. And I always turned down the opportunity. Well, I think I was 62 or 63 on this call. And I said, if I turn it down this time, no one ever is going to call me. And if I'm going to go back, now's the time. So took the shot and went back. And they were good to me. We had real struggles the first 2 years. And third year, we won a world championship. I went home. I wanted to be with my 11 grandsons and grandkids, rather.
Yeah.
And I was out a year, and I actually recognized when we were handing out the Super Bowl rings in May at the banquet, I said to myself, what the hell did I do? I spent 3 years at helping this team be a world champion, and I left. Now I'm handing them the rings and saying goodbye. And I knew then that I probably had made a mistake, that I should have stayed there and joined my family a few years later. And fortunately for me, the president of the Chiefs, who had worked for me at UCLA and the Eagles, talked me into going to Chiefs. And it was Kansas City Chief experience, though we didn't win championship, was a great experience for me emotionally and physically. And the community was wonderful. The ownership was outstanding. And I got to finish my career on a real high note.
Yeah. That's unbelievable. I mean, what a life story.
Yeah, and very, very fortunate. But what teaches you a lesson, take advantage of your opportunities. You can only turn down so many.
Yeah.
You got to take advantage of them and then go to work.
And then go to work. Well, I think one of the things that you said that was so interesting to me was that you were never ready for the next job.
No.
But you jumped in.
No, we're not. Yeah.
They're
Scary.
Yeah.
It's scary sometimes, very scary. But if your ego's in place, it's not a crime to ask. It's search and lean on people that can help you. I always prided myself in trying to hire people that I really felt was a lot brighter than me and had more experience. And I would learn from them, and they would learn from me.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned right away that you learned from people that you were coaching, and so players that have been in the game for a long time. Yeah, so that's unbelievable. Well, when you rewind and you think about growing up in a small town and the roots that you had, what were the lessons that were most important to you that kind of took you on your journey that really you still hold on to today?
Well, I'd say probably the number one thing is how important your neighbor is. How important the client, your dad working in the old garage, the customers. You knew everybody's first name, last name, middle name, the wives, the grandparents. It was a great, great environment to grow up in. Yeah, you had absolutely no restrictions, and no problems. And you were able to grow and make mistakes, get corrected, move forward. And everybody had the right to discipline you when you were out of line.
Yeah.
From your best friend's dad to the kid you went to the first grade with, all these, it was just sort of the whole culture there helped you grow up as a person in a complete, a complete personality. And you really gain the respect for how important relationships work with people. Yeah. And that was a real, real advantage for me.
Yeah, well, those lessons of relationships carried you forward because it was relationships that moved you from opportunity to opportunity.
Yeah, I think I had an advantage. My dad was really tough. Not mean, but really tough. And I had to work for him, and I didn't really enjoy it. That's why I didn't become a mechanic, really. But all said, I got to get out of here. But the toughness that he instilled in me and the ability to handle the adversity he created for me made me stronger and tougher. And my mother was the compassionate one. Okay, my dad was the tough one. And it helped me form what I am today, really. And it helped me get through some tough times. But he had unbelievable integrity and had no concern about money. He could care less about a dollar bill. I remember the time I was teaching in high school, and I came home, and he showed me the new workbook that auto mechanics charge for doing the jobs. They said, "Look at this, Dick, $28.50 an hour." He said, "No man is worth $28.50 an hour." But that's how he thought. And he never changed his prices. That's why he never made any money. But it was a good lesson for me.
Yeah, mission over money.
They instilled the priorities of how you handle the environment you're in and the people you're with.
Yeah, and those relationships still strong today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Most of my relationships in my hometown, the 28 kids in my graduating class, there's only about 7 of us left.
Oh, wow. Well, you talked this week when you've been sharing with us about stories of those relationships that you've developed over the years, and you still get text messages and email messages and those things from players that you haven't worked with in years and years, but yet you still communicate and stay in touch with them. So,
Well, they're the people that made you what you are. They contributed to your career, and hopefully I contributed to them. I have a text message on my phone this morning from Keith Krefling, my starting tight end at the Eagles. My 90s through 1977 through 82. Okay. And I knew his kids, and I've hunted with him, and he still lives in the area. And it's great because I really know him and he really knows me.
yeah.
Okay. It's great.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I think one of the things I took away from last night when we were communicating and you're sharing with the group, how when you came into a new environment, you had to change the culture, and oftentimes you had to take it from what was a little bit passive and had to be really tough. You had to really break them down and establish that new level of grit, that new level of what it meant to get things done. Talk to us a little bit about how you go in and you coach, and you don't hold back. You make the hard decisions, you do the hard things so that the team knows that you're willing to do the hard things, so that when they're on the field, they've got that same mentality.
Well, the first thing I did is I tried to keep some people on the coaching staff that were already there, on the staff that just got fired, because it gave me insight to everybody I was going to start working with in the building as well as on the field. And it would help me pick up speed quicker. And fortunately for Frank, I became the head coach at UCLA. I kept 7 of the 10-man staff that became my coaches. And 3 of them all became nationally head coaches later on. Great young kids that could really coach. And I couldn't go to work at UCLA for a month because I was still coaching of the Rams.
Yeah.
So I gave them all responsibilities, met with them at 11 o'clock each night, and then went back to my job, and they were doing my job at UCLA. And that helped me get up to speed quicker within that environment, within the college environment again. And it taught me how important to have people around you that know what's going on before you get there.
Sure.
And that are going to be loyal to you and respectful to you, because that's the kind of people they are. Young assistant Terry Donahue, Dick Tomey, my God, guys like that were all outstanding football coaches, but they were just young kids. And so when the Eagles, I kept a couple guys, and I brought some guys with me. When I came to the Chiefs, I kept some guys off that staff because they could bring me up to speed quickly, and I didn't have to spend 6 months learning about this guy, this department, how this department works, and how this player plays. And so it made me be more efficient early. Yeah. And also you have to realize you don't have all the answers. And sometimes it takes you a while to gain the knowledge to understand what the situation is. But the more people that you have with you that were already there, in most of the time successful organizations, except the Eagles and the Rams, that you get up to speed quicker.
Yeah. But you talked about, though, when you walked in, just how much you had to shift the culture of hard work, that the double days and the practices, and people just weren't ready for the way that you brought the intensity.
Well, I always went into an organization saying I wasn't going to outsmart anybody. As a young football coach, and now you're going to be coaching against Tom Landry, Don Shula, Don Corey, all these kind of coaches. You aren't going to outsmart them. You're 32 years old, and they're 50 years old. They've been doing it for a long time. But what you might be able to do is put a staff together that'll outwork them. and out-develop the younger players that they may cast off that can play. We'll just give them more time on the field. So we put our practice sessions together like it was spring practice in college football. We broke it down individually how you play your position. Then we combined them into other people that play around them into small groups. And you'd have to understand the whole game to understand what I'm talking about. But it wasn't always 11 against 11. It was 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, inside, outside, wide, all these combinations that teach a player to play his position better and then play it better within the group. And therefore, we were able to take, for example, the Eagles didn't have a first or second or third round pick my first 2 years, and they'd been losing. In my third year, we didn't have a first or second. So all of a sudden, you're playing teams that have been beating you all along. That's why they fired the coach. And the third year went to playoffs. But if I hadn't taken that approach, we're going to make you better because you're going to be our product. You may not like the process for a while, but once people accept the fact that the hard work is helping them get better, it's going to improve their career, it's going to improve their contract, and they believe you, they trust what you're doing, then the fact that they take pride in how hard they work, then hard work isn't hard work anymore, just who they are. Yeah, and that happened to me really on the first two teams. I didn't have to take quite that approach at the Chiefs because it was a more sophisticated organization on the field and off the field. But the first two, we got especially the Rams because it was a more modern team now, 14 years, that's the Eagles. And when we got after me, it was totally different than anybody else in the league was doing. But it paid off.
Yeah.
It paid off.
It did.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned the Chiefs. I wanted to ask you about the Hunt family. You talked about the relationship that you had there and how that was a special relationship, great people that made a big difference, obviously, in the NFL. And just tell us a little bit about that.
I think that summarize the Hunt family, it was probably, to me, you couldn't work for a finer family in the National Football League than the Hunt family.
Wow.
Lamar Hunt was a very special human being. What you learn right away is how humble he is. I mean, men with a lot of money can choose how they want to be. They can buy how they want to be. When they choose to be humble and courteous and kind and respectful, it really impresses you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really, he touched me. We became very close. And I'm proud of the fact that I've heard him say I was his favorite coach. Maybe not his best, but his favorite, because we got along so well. And I miss it. I keep an H on my desk. It's on the window, a little sticker that for the year after he passed, they put on the helmet. I put on my window. So every morning I say hello to it because he taught me how important it is to be humble, regardless of your situation. He could be whatever he wanted to be and buy whatever he wanted to be. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot from him, and Parker's done a nice job as well. I mean, he's not his dad.
Yeah.
I'm not my dad, but he's a Hunt.
Okay.
And they do a wonderful job here.
Yeah. Tell us the story about when you were on the airplane.
Lamar was thrifty, and he never held the company to a standard that he had. If Carl Peterson, the president, who had worked for me at the UCLA and the Eagles, who talked me into coming to the Hunt family and the Chiefs, when you coach, or you're my head coach, you fly first class. So I'm going somewhere on a scouting mission in the off season. I'm sitting in first class, and who gets on the plane is Lamar Hunt, the owner of the team. And he, hi, Lamar, would not expect him to sit right next to me or behind me. He's sitting in coach way back in the back. I was so embarrassed. So I get up and I walk back there, and Lamar coming to, no way. Says, you blow him up there. It's just the way he was. And he was not a phony about it. But I have a few unique stories on him that explain how humble he was. The car he drove.
Yeah.
It didn't look like the owner of the Kansas City Chiefs. One time they towed his car out of the Hunt parking place because they thought somebody had parked their car illegally in its place. They towed the car. It was his Chevy or whatever.
Yeah.
With 50,000 miles on it. He was amazing. One night after a Sunday game, we asked him, because he had taken Norm up to the airport. He didn't hire a limo to take her to the airport. He took her to the airport, came back to the stadium, and I was late leaving there. I said, Lamar, would you like to come home and have an evening dinner with Carol and I and Mike and Marilyn? Mike said, oh, I'd love to. So he comes over, and we had leftovers, and we obviously barbecued, and now he had half the time he's eating, and he gets up, he has to go, and he says, Carol, that was the best scraps I've ever had. But that's Lamar Hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it. You could go out and tell other stories about him too. But but he created an atmosphere. I think he created the atmosphere of the Kansas City Chief fans. Yeah, I think that it all stems from the roots that he developed there.
Mm. So you talked about last night when we were sharing just about the differences between the stadiums and the teams and the way that those fans are, and that the Kansas City Chiefs I mean, they're respectful. They do a lot, but compared to some of the other environments, it's not quite the same.
Well, I think all three NFL teams that I worked for, first time was Los Angeles Rams, but later, then it's the Philadelphia Eagles, passionate, very passionate, very intense.
Hmm.
St. Louis later on, well, I wasn't sure they're going to love football yet. The St. Louis Cardinals had left. Cardinal baseball team was there, and that's a baseball town. We gradually turned them into being excited about their football team, and they were very respectful, not as intense as Philadelphia. Then I come to Kansas City, and they're very respectful of the leadership. When things don't go, I can remember the first time we lost the game there, and we lost a lot of them. I walk out to the coach, go up to tunnel behind the bench here, and you hear fans say, "Oh, good job, coach. We'll get him next week. That'll be all right." Well, in Philadelphia, my first year, I can't repeat what they would say to me when I walked in because they're so passionate and so intense and they were sitting in seats at their grandfather gate, okay, from years and years ago. So
Yeah.
it's a deep loyalty, but when in Philadelphia, when you lose, it's like you mistreated them.
Yeah. Yeah.
In Kansas City, they're every bit as passionate, but not as intense.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, when you think back all the way to the high school days and then college and going into the NFL and the young people that are in the game today, and it's so hard to get from high school football all the way through college and into the NFL. Or what are the fundamental pieces of advice that you would share to those young people that are thinking, I want to make the ride?
Well, first off, enjoy the environment you're in. If you're a high school football player, enjoy it.
Yeah.
Very few of you are going to end up playing college football. If you're a college football player and enjoy it, enjoy it. Almost a very small percentage are going to end up playing the NFL. But use the game as an educational experience. You can actually, my dad used to say this to me when he played high school football. He said, I could live my life on the principles I learned being on a team. Do your job. Do jobs. Do your job. And I just think it's an environment for kids, especially today's world, where they do almost nothing that's tough, nothing that's hard. When any kind of part job that they get is a simple one, not a physical one, not a dirty one. And football is a tough, dirty game.
Contact sport.
Yeah, it's a contact sport, and it's a great learning opportunity. To get knocked on your butt and get up and get back lined up. To walk off the field limping and walk back on the field limping, but you could still play. Rather than, thinking of a way to get out and go home. And some of that will carry over the day they got to go to work, and they don't feel like it, but they'll lean back and, I didn't feel like getting a huddle the next play, but I went back on the huddle because my team wanted me there. My office needs me. My job responsibilities are important. I think a lot of life lessons can be taught on the football field.
Yeah, I think that's unbelievable advice. Yeah.
I can give you an example. Okay, I'll tell you the story that cemented this thought in my mind. I'm inducted in the Hillsdale High School Hall of Fame. I had two ends, Bob Paget and Mike Abbott, both brilliant kids. One honor student goes to Stanford, the other guy's to USC. One ends up running his own law firm. The other guy ends an emergency surgeon in USC and on the border region to USC. Mike Abbott, I have him introduce me in the Hall of Fame. Why? Because he's dying of cancer and he has about 5 months left to live. 5 months left to live. I pick him up at the airport in San Mateo. Pick him up. I meet the other kid, Bob Paget, the retired emergency surgeon and border region at USC. And I say to Mike, what would you like to do before we go to the event this evening? He said, Coach, I'd like to go over to the Burlingame Field where I played my last game, and I caught a pass down about the 20-yard line and ran across the field. He said, I think about that often. I'd like to do that again. So help me God. We went over to the field, the three of us. Bob Patcher brought a football. And he got in the exact spot he lined up as a high school football player. And we threw in the pass on a crossing pattern going to the field and caught it, ran, and he spiked the ball. He died a few months later. That's what he wanted to do. So that tells me high school football made a real contribution to that guy. And I'm in tears. I'm in tears watching this whole thing. Oh, yeah. But it was it. That's what he wanted to do. You talk about send a deep message.
Yeah.
That how important football was to him. And he's a brilliant kid.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
But live in the moment. Enjoy it.
He wanted to go back and do what he experienced the last game he ever played.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Well, that makes me think of the deep connections that you develop with your players and that you've shared with us, that it's not just they're working for you, they're on a team or whatever. You get to know these players and you develop relationships with them. Some of them really positive, some of them are really challenging. Even your wife gets involved and has them over for dinner. Talk to us a little bit about why such a deep personal connection is so important in coaching.
Well, everyone has his own style of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of head coaches that really know the player's first name. They call them all the time by the last name because there could be a lot of Mikes on the field if he yelled at Mike. But the last name he'd yell at. And I worked for a coach one time and said that a man profits by a mistake or directly proportional to how much you make him suffer when he makes it. And I learned a lot from that man. He was a great Tommy Pro Tour. Brilliant man and a heck of a coach. But I just so much enjoyed the kids in high school that I got to coach and be with, even on the swimming team. And I enjoyed the interaction and really getting to know what they're about. And I was never afraid to let them get to know what I'm all about. And we share these experiences, and I just never changed. Each level I went up in coaching, I never changed. And I found it easier as the players got older because there are more things within the environment that they can do that you like doing. Yeah, when I was coaching the Eagles, two of the guys and I hunted together in the off season. Okay, yet I'd chew their butt out on the practice field, but we walked off the field. We're close, and I had to cut some of those guys from time to time, which is really tough to do.
Yeah,
but they always knew when we go on the field, this is why we're here. I have a responsibility, and they have a responsibility. But when there's a deep relationship, they take that responsibility more serious.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to let you down. I didn't want to let them down. And you develop really, really loving relationships in many cases. It goes way beyond just respect. You can respect the person you don't like because you have great talent in this area. But when you really get into the relationship building program and really get to see them and know them, it really adds to your ability to communicate, understand, and help somebody be what he wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
And, John Wooden once told me, I was walking down the hall and Mike Shib was down under there and he says, Coach, what's wrong? And I said, well, Coach, I just lost 3 real good players in signing a letter of intent that went to SC. And he looks at me right in the eye and he says, Coach, don't worry about that. UFC is always going to have better players than you. Just make sure you make those kids that you had the best they could possibly be. I never, ever forgot that. Never. Yeah. Simple, but true. And the next year we beat him. Yeah. Next year we beat him and go to the Rose Bowl. Yeah, okay. So I quit worrying about what somebody else had. He had a better guard, a better tackle, a better quarterback. I just made sure I helped my quarterback be the best he could be. Yeah. And I had some secrets, I think, to helping quarterbacks do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I learned that. The initial thought came from John Wood.
Yeah. But I love the way that you poured into each individual and coached them individually. I mean, it wasn't just a broad-based approach. It was the way that you made them the best version of themselves was to know what it took to do that.
Some people are more difficult. Some people don't trust you. And I one time in Kansas City grabbed this big black kid and he'd had just a new guy on our team, had been on another team. I gave him a big hug, he jumped back. You see, no white man has ever hugged. It's exactly what he said to me. We became good friends. Yeah. And I was on his ass all the time because it wasn't natural for him to empty his bucket on every snap. He'd play when he wanted to play, but you can't win consistently doing that. But that little one event helped us.
Break down the barriers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Well, talk to us just a little bit. Speaking of winning and all the things, you were showing me how deeply you go into strategy and you lay out the entire season every day, every week, all the way down to the minute of what you're gonna do in practices. One, why is that so important, and how did you learn to take it to that level of detail?
Well, it's so easy to forget when you have so many areas of responsibility. And the job gets bigger, the responsibilities broaden.
Mhm.
And sometimes you aren't prepared for them. Sometimes you forgot about it or didn't realize it was important. So I started a program where I'd take a year and map it out the best I could over a year. Then I would take it down by that year, the month.
Mhm.
Then I'd break it down by that, and within that month, those weeks. And then I'd break it down all the way down to all of a sudden now it's training camp.
Mhm.
And I'd give an overall picture of the training camp. Then I'd break it down by the day. Then I'd break it down by the hour. Then I'd break it down by the drill. And then I'd break it down by the minute. And then I'd break it down by the area of what we're going to be working on. And I actually started color coding it. So when I finished the whole map, I could see, well, I don't have enough of this color. And I'd go back and start over again and get more, because there's areas of the game that require more preparation than other areas.
Mhm.
You better know what they are.
Yeah.
You better know what they are. And you better know it's a lot harder to score in the red zone. Yeah, there's going to be war down there. There's less area to defend. How you spread, and then you got to break. Okay, now you're in the red zone. How many might be on 15-yarder? How different is the 15-yard line than the 8-yard line?
Yeah.
How different is a 3-yard line from the 8-yard line? So that's how I started breaking it down. And I would give it to all my coaches with responsibilities, and they would go ahead and add their contribution to it. We'd meet on it, adjust it, shake it, put it in, and later in years, put it in the computer, readjust it, and then I'd make big copies of it, and it'd be in every coach's office. Initially, I'd make the assistant coaches fill out the whole training camp for every drill. I didn't like ad-lib coaching. And I've worked with guys at ad-lib. They weren't sure what they're going to do until they got on the field. I don't, that to me, you got to give it more thought
Mm.
and more individual thought. What does my best left guard need today? Yeah, what does my right tackle need today? This year he's going to play against 3 all-pro defensive left ends. These kind of things. And pretty quick when you work with guys like that, and they do it because they know how to do it, and that's what's expected of them. And you don't have to map everything you want them to do. They do it on their own.
Yeah.
And they do it better than you ask them to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love the strategy, the intentionality. I mean, it goes back to one of my favorite things, and, start with the end in mind. So if you're going to win a Super Bowl, you got to start way back and plan out all the pieces.
The road to the Super Bowl is always under construction. Always. At off-season, summer training, even on vacation time. Oh, guy, you working on today?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, talk to us gets a little bit about that. I mean, you had to make a lot of hard decisions along the way. You had to make, the decisions of who to play, who not to play, who to start, who not to start, all the things. When you think about, the big decisions that you've had to make over your career, what are the ones that you're the most proud of, and what are the ones that if you had to do over, you'd definitely handle different?
Well, the decision to move from one job to the next, and you ask a family for the vote, and they vote, you stay, and you don't do it, you go anyway. It's sometimes like a family of 3 kids and a wife, that next move is fearful. It creates uncertainty. Another school and all this. And I would always ask, what should we do? And I think I say, let's not go. And they didn't want to leave that to college to go to Stanford. We got Stanford. They didn't want to go to L.A. to be with the Rams. But they didn't want to leave the Rams to go to UCLA. They certainly didn't want to go from UCLA to Philadelphia. But sometimes you have to do what you have to do to and I never planned on ending up in the NFL. It just happened. But I went anyway. The first year of Philadelphia was a nightmare for my family. Absolute. And my wife would get mad because she couldn't find the avocados. Okay. The kids going to the schools found it totally different than California and everything. But the first top decision I had to make after being there 1 year is I knew that this quarterback that had been playing for him wasn't going to play well for me. So what do? I trade their all-pro tight end for Ron Jaworski, who we drafted at the Rams when I was there out of Youngstown. I said, this kid knows what this kind of atmosphere is about. tough kid. He understands. His dad worked in steel mills and his mom, they're all hard-nosed people, and he will fit in Philadelphia. And so I traded for him and brought him there. He took us to the Super Bowl. And then you get to the Rams situation. Quarterback there, they drafted the year before, and I go through the first year. I think he's got talent. Let's go another year, and until he is what he is. He isn't going to do what we have to do. So we get Trent Green. And Trent Green came in. Trent Green is a kid that played in the league 8-9 years and never played the game. He was a third quarterback for the Redskins. And then all of them got hurt, and he got to play like 14 games that one year. And he played really well, and I liked him. I liked what I saw on film. And John Becker and Charlie Armick liked what they saw on film, so we brought him and we signed him as a free agent. He came in, he was doing well, he got hurt. Now I have to make a decision. What do we do? Now I had a coach who had been the head coach of the Raiders, had a player there, quarterback that had retired. We could get him in and sign him. He's had a lot of experience. It was in, but he could fill in. And finally it comes down to me. What are we going to do? And I said, something, we're going to go with Kurt Warner. Now people thought I was good. No, they didn't even know who he was. Yeah, because he'd only played in the Arena League, and he played, I think, 11 or 12 snaps in the last game of the season as the backup quarterback, as the third quarterback. And I made him the backup quarterback to be a Trent. And lo and behold, he lit it up. And that was a gift, but also a feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, feel. You can't predict that kind of thing happening. I knew he would play well.
Yeah.
I didn't know he could play as well as he could there. And so that was a major decision. A decision to leave and go home after winning the Super Bowl. I had evaluated all the coaches in the league were great coaches, and almost all of them have been fired after being considered a great coach. And I said, here I am, 60-something years old, winning a world championship. I could end up being one of those guys that got fired 2 years down the road, because that's how the league is. And my kids keep having grandchildren, and I was bringing them to training camp all the time, the boys, and I'm missing out on being a grandfather.
Yeah.
So I go home, and like I said, I get home, and in May I'm handing out these Super Bowl rings that I reckon on what did I do? And then I knew, and I don't regret. I don't let myself go back and regret. I live with the decision I made and move on. But I realized that I probably should have stayed. If I had the decision to make over again, I would have stayed.
Yeah.
And I didn't. And then Carl Peterson, the president of the Chiefs, came after me. And I first said, no, I'm not going to go back. And then he flew into town with his wife and another fellow that had worked for me at UCLA and the Eagles. And they sat in our room from 11 o'clock in the morning till night. About time to go, we went out for dinner. And at the restaurant, I said, all right, if that means that much to you, let's do it. So I went back into coaching. And I'm sure glad I did. We didn't win the Super Bowl. That's my one regret. I wasn't able to hand the Lamar Hunt Trophy. And we were a real good football team a couple of those years, and we couldn't get by when we won the division in 2003. Had a great offensive football team, and got beat in the playoff game. I was there. Game against Colts, and no team punted. The only playoff game I ever played where neither team punted, neither team could stop. We had a touchdown call back, cost us the ball game. If we get by that game, I think we could win it all, but we couldn't get by him. And I said, hey man, if you're gonna lose to somebody, lose to a guy like him.
Yep. Yeah, that's incredible. Well, the stories that you've got to share, it's just unbelievable when it comes to all the history and the experiences. When you take a step back and look at all of the career and all the things that you've done, talk to us just a little bit. There's got to be an overwhelming sense of pride just in the lives that you've touched and the people that you've been able to impact and how you've changed lives forever.
Well, when you look back, it deepens your respect for being grateful and for the contribution so many people made, because I would never consider a genius, okay? And I've always looked at the coaches I looked at and evaluated coach as superior. And I have always felt that the people I surrounded myself together collectively, we became pretty good.
Yeah.
I was part of it, not all of it.
Yeah.
And I learned so much from each year of how to do it better, because I never thought I was the best. And there are some people get thinking about this, their ego prevents them from listening and learning. And I learned from players. I learned from players. And having had the opportunity to broadcast the game on a major scale, 14 years, I was in somebody's locker room every week, every season. I was watching every coach from the great ones, the Don Shulas, the Landrys, all the great coaches, the Gibbses. I was in their meeting rooms. I sat in their quarterback meeting rooms. I sat in closed-door meetings with them and listened to them. I sat in locker rooms and listened to players talk. It's amazing what players will tell somebody in a locker room the day before a game. I learned a lot. And it helped deepen the understanding when you're in that position how to do it better, because I know how they think. And it really, and also, when I went back, it added confidence, because I saw a lot of things. I said to myself, we were doing a lot better than they're doing. And then I also saw some places that, like
You learn. Yeah.
Bill Snyder, nobody coached football better than Bill Snyder. Nobody. Not on the college level, not on the pro level. Nobody coached football better than Bill Snyder. Oh. And because I witnessed it, I've watched it, I studied it, I evaluated it. Tom Coughlin at Boston College, that's why they won Super Bowl in New York. What has he done since he's gone? He took a 9-on-17, won a world championship. So you learn from those kind of guys, and you admire them.
Yeah.
You admire them, and you learn from those. So you add that to you as you go back. What you got to watch out, I mentioned it to one of the guys last night who really cares about his people. You get so involved emotionally with your guys that sometimes as a leader, it's hard to know it's time to let this guy go and move somebody else in. Your own emotion and caring for the person interferes with a good leadership decision that you have to make, because you have authority given to you from the guys above you. And later on in your career, you get paid well to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big responsibility all the way around.
You have a responsibility. And the teams always know that. I told the teams to.
Yeah.
I said, I may not cut my son, and I may care about you, but I'll have to cut you if you don't do the job well enough. They knew that. I'd talk that over a glass of wine. And they'd say, Coach, you're never going to cut me.
I love that. I think there's some incredible lessons for us in the business community as it relates to everything that you've shared. I mean, we talk about foundation of relationships, and that being the foundation, being able to coach into the individual. You think about, start with the end in mind and the strategies, learning from those that are around you, building an incredible team, hiring people that are smarter than you and brighter than you and have great ideas. I think all of those things are translatable to the business community. I think it's a great way for us to take sports and life lessons and then build better businesses as a result.
Well, that's why high school football is so bad. But you start learning on the field,
Hmm.
and then you get in your own business world, you find out some of those concepts and principles. Your own high school football field on your team make a difference in the job that you have today. Yeah, so I really believe in the game and the value of it. I think sometimes that the league has grown so much and there's so much money that I come up with a statement: greed is not a value, not a virtue.
Yeah.
It all gets all about money,
Yeah.
and I get worried about what that can do to a game.
Yeah.
But even the NIL money, college,
Yeah.
it's not a good lesson to teach kids.
No, it's not. I agree with you. Yeah. Yeah. When the mission goes before money, then it's better for everybody. Yeah. Yeah.
It
So
always used to be that way.
yeah,
The scholarship used to be the payroll.
that's right.
And very few kids that I've ever coached started with a job more valuable than the scholarship money they earn by playing.
Mm. Wow.
And the good kids today make a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it creates chaos.
And I always thought they should get some money, but not like it's gone today. It's
Yeah.
going to create some real issues down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you think about that and you think about what's going on at the collegiate level and at the NFL level, what advice would you have for the leagues to get that under control, having watched it for so many years?
Well, I'd say the first thing, to make sure you realize you're coaching people, not football players. They're all individuals. Like I always said, I don't coach football. I coach people that play football. That's who I'm leading. And the game has become so big, and they're playing in Puerto Rico. They're all over the world. Yeah, they're going to Australia next year. Can you imagine that?
Yeah. Yeah.
But just keep the fact that they're players. See, now I'm older. I've been out of the league 20 years, and I'm around guys that played with me 20 years ago on my teams and that. And we can't forget those guys. We can't forget the contribution they made to the league to be what the league is today. And it's easy to do.
on the shoulders.
Yeah. And I'm a big advocate for those guys that made the league what it is today.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, Coach, I want to raise a glass with you
Oh, thank you.
and say thank you and congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Get many of these anymore.
Yeah. Thank you.